Hello everybody, this is Mr. Schwartz. I'm back with another how to draw video from Mr. Schwartz's Art Hour. And on this very special bonus episode, today we are learning to draw Aang's little buddy, Momo. Meet me on the other side of this scene transition and let's get ourselves started. Alright ladies and gentlemen, so in order to draw ourselves little Momo, we're going to be drawing some basic shapes first to get the idea of his body in, and then we'll be putting in more details as we go along. So what we want to do first is we want to draw a nice basic circle. I'm going to keep this circle fairly small because we're drawing the entirety of Momo's body. And Momo has some pretty large ears, so make sure that whatever size you make the head, that you think you'll be able to fit in very, very large ears to go along with it. So then now once we have the circle for the head established, I'm going to draw basically a bean shape for his body. And what's going to happen is I'm going to start the bean shape inside his head a little ways, like this, and then it's going to exit his body like so. And you can see that the shape curves when it reaches about the middle. And again, you want to keep this fairly rounded, and it's going to go back up, and it's going to enter, it should enter back into the body where I started the original shape at. So about here. So then you can see when I erase that out, it gives us the indication that Momo has its head, his head, her head, I don't know, its head nestled further down in its body. So because Momo really doesn't have much of a neck to speak of. So what you want to do next is we're going to go ahead and divide Momo's face up. And so the middle line for his face is going to be a little ways further that way this time around. So about here. And then his head is going to be split pretty evenly from side to side by the eye line. So about like so. And then we're going to put in the ears. So I got to move my paper further down so you can see it all. Now for his ears, this ear over here is going to start about here and here. The basic shape of them is going to be basically a feather. So it's going to be wide about around here, and then as it gets further and further up, they're going to get closer and closer together until they end at a pretty decent point. So you can see the size of them compared to the head. You can make yours even larger if you want. That's completely up to you. But this one over here does need to be a little bit larger than this one because this side of the head is turned towards us. So this one, again, is going to enter the head here and a little bit below the eye line here. So we'll make this one swoop out to about over here. And have this line swoop out to meet it. So you can see Momo basically has the ears of a bat. So those are pretty gigantic ears. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to zoom into the head and get those features set in, and then we'll work on getting the limbs of Momo's body set in. Alright, so luckily for us, Momo's facial features are about as simple as you can get. So what we need to do is, I'm going to lightly erase out these middle lines here, make it easier for you to see. And for his nose, it's basically going to be a circle that's a little bit cut on either side. So it's going to go through the middle of the line here, having a little bit more space on this side. And then, instead of going straight, curving down, it's going to be more of a shape like this. More of a diamond shape, but with a round bottom. Like so. And then a simple line here and here indicates the nostrils. Then what we can do is have a little split right here, which will indicate the lip. And then a little slightly curving down line for his mouth. That's all we need to do for that part. And for the eyes, we can put in a simple circle over here. Make it fairly decent size. And then put in the other eye over here. And then you put a second circle, full circle, inside the other one to give us the basic outline of Momo's eyes. So again, facial features this time around are very, very simple. What we can do then too is for the outside area of the face right here, at about the point where the body meets back up into the head, we're going to draw the circle with a little bit more of a slant on this bottom side here before it meets back up with the face. That gives us more of the actual shape for Momo's head right down here. What we can do then is we can come up to these ears and put in the inside details. So what we're going to do is, I'll reestablish this part to make it easier for you to see. And then what we can do is we're going to come down to about where the eye line would intersect with the ear. And we're going to take that shape, curve it up, really far up until we have quite a bit of space here dominated to the middle part of his ear. And it's going to reach up and then end a little ways before it would hit the edge of the ear. And then what we can do down here is I'm going to scribble in a few little squiggly lines right here to show us the inside fur in Momo's ear. And then at about here, I'm going to draw the other side of the middle of his ear. It doesn't hit the edge of the ear. It's going to stay away from that until it reaches up and into the line that we drew before. So then I can redraw this area for you. And then what we can do is he has little echo chambers inside his ears so we can hear really well. And those take the form of simple curving lines that curve throughout the inside of his ear. This also gives us the indication of the three-dimensionality of this character. By making these lines curving instead of straight, it gives us the indication that there's three-dimensional space inside of there. What we did over here, we're going to do the same over here. However, we're going to make it so that there's a little bit less space for the inside of the ear over here than there was over here. Again, because this ear is turned slightly away from us. So the top of the line will be about to here. And once again, the bottom part of the inside of the ear does not touch the outside rim of the ear. It's going to reach up like so. I'll clear out some of those extra gunky lines so it's easier for you to see. Once again, we're going to do the feathering detail that we did here, but the difference is we're going to make it occupy a little bit more space, like so. And then we can put in the extra furry stuff for his ear there. And then we're going to put in these lines again over here, but we're going to reverse their direction. So instead of curving this way, the lines will instead curve the opposite way. Because if they curve the same way as those, it would make very little sense visually. All right, so I'll reestablish that line there. And then for those of you that only want to draw Momo's face and nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and finish that, and then if you wish to do the rest of his body, you can join me for that. So what we're going to do here is we can darken up the pupil. So we have Momo just staring wide-eyed at us like he normally does. Make it so it's further into the middle of the frame. There you go. And then I'm going to draw the... See, he has the middle part of his face that's then surrounded by the fur. So we want to indicate that by basically making a sort of a heart shape at the top of his face about right here. Make this part very light, and you'll see why in a second. And then it's going to move down across the side of his face. It's going to, again, you need to leave some space down here between this shape and the outside of his head. You can leave less space over here to again give us the illusion that his head is turning that way. And then it will come back around and up to the top like that. And now why I said to do it lightly is so that once you have that shape established, you can come back in here and break up that shape with a few little lines like this to indicate fur. You don't have to draw every single fur detail individually. You can just do a few lines here and there like this to help give the viewer the idea of what's going on with his head. Then over on this side and this side of the head, we're going to erase out those lines that we had before for the circular part of his head. And instead I'm just going to put a little bit of a bumpy line right here to show us where the side of his head actually is. And then down here, I'm again going to make the line wobble very slightly and break it up every so often down here. Finish things off with a few little tufts of hair right here. Clean everything up, and there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There is Momo's head, all finished up. Now, of course, if you want to continue on with me, let's move down to the bottom of the body and do the entire rest of him. And then one last thing you can see me doing here before we move on is you can add a little extra ring around both eyes to give him those black outlines that we see in his design model on the show. Now this part can be a little bit complex, so just follow along with me and hopefully you should do just fine. So what we want to do first is I'm going to establish where his arms are. So his arms, the shoulder on this arm is going to be right around here. And the other arm is going to start a little further down on the other side of the body right there. Now I'm going to build his arms using 2 cylinders on this one so you can see what kind of thing we're going for. So I'm going to draw the first one so that it reaches about midway down his body. And they're fairly skinny. He doesn't have really any big musculature to him, so keep that in mind. Then once we reach the middle part of the body here, I'm going to draw another ball, this one representing his elbow. And then I'm going to draw another shape or cylinder line that's going to go down until it reaches about this bottom part of the body here. We're going to draw this one here doing much the same thing, and it gets a little bit skinnier as we reach his wrist. And then we draw in his wrist as a circle, and then I'm going to draw a simple shape that has 2 curving sides and then connects them both with a curve, so it's down below his body like so. We can do the same over here. I'm going to draw a line that goes down to about here, right around where this one was, a little bit further down. I'm not going to draw this side of the arm because we're not going to see it because it's hidden behind his body. And then this side of the line is going to curve outwards, out and down to about here. And now we will see a little bit of this side of the line, like so. And this hand is going to be meeting up with the hand that we drew before. So again, so there's the basic shapes for the arms. Keep those light. We're going to be erasing that stuff later on as we firmly establish where the arms are going to be. These are just our basic shapes. Now the trickier part then is going to be his legs. We're going to be drawing him sitting down. So what we're going to be doing is his legs are going to be, the upper thigh region is going to be up, and then the knee is going to be down. So the way we're going to do that is I'm going to come to about where the elbow is here, and I'm going to draw a curving shape that will curve down to about right here. So you want a shape that curves about like so. And then right below this elbow joint, I'm going to draw another circle. So so this leg, since it's pointing towards us, it appears to be overlapping his arm. So this is his little knee that he's got here. And now on the side of that knee, I'm going to draw an oval shape. And the oval shape is going to go down until it's at about level with his hands. And then it's going to go back up. And it's going to curve back into that little knee joint that we made. So this is his thigh region, and then this is his knee and shin region. One more circle. And then we can draw a foot shape that looks very much like the hand shape that we drew before. So now if I erase that stuff to make it easier for you to see, here's the basic shape that we should have. Keep it fairly small because his legs and arms are smaller than any other part of his body, including his gigantic ears. Okay, once you have that one taken care of, the other leg is actually much easier because we're just going to be drawing one curving shape. And that loop is going to be a little ways below the elbow joint on this arm. It's going to start about here. And it's only going to curve up until it's going to go a little ways above the knee joint over here. Once it hits that area, it's going to loop around. And it's going to make a pretty steep incline into the hand that we have drawn here. And then a little ways below that, we can draw a foot shape that's not going to look quite like this one. It's going to have a shape much more like this. So there we go. That's basically his whole little body section. With one last thing. We know what Momo needs to have. He needs to have a tail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a single line first, and then I'm going to build the other part of the tail next. So I'm going to come to round about this part of the thigh, about halfway, a little below halfway. And I'm going to draw a curving line that's going to curve back into the body at around here. And then the tricky part is you have to make when it re-emerges from the body, it has to look like it was actually the same tail as this part was over here. So you can see that's why I drew that imaginary line. So I know that when I draw this side, that I did it correctly. So this is going to curve out for a while, then it's going to curve around and end at about here. And then what I'm going to do is I can come back here and I can draw a second line underneath the first one to build the rest of the tail. This is actually the much easier part to do because all you got to do is follow that line that you drew before. Nothing too complex about that. It's going to curve around and then it's going to end with a curve for the rest of the tail. So, hopefully you're able to follow that along fairly well with me. And what we're going to do now is we're going to reestablish what lines are actually going to stay in there and add in the furry details. So basically show you what we're going to be keeping, I'm going to heavily outline the areas that we actually want to keep. So we need that back part of him there. And then for the arm, we need the sides of the arm that we drew. We do not need the ball joint for the shoulder. So as I erase that, you can see that this part of the arm is higher up than this part. That's because this part would be the armpit area. And so this line needs to be a little bit higher. And we need this line that goes down into the hand. And we need this part of the hand. Now I'm going to zoom in later on and show you what you have to do down here. So for right now, all you got to know is that we need to keep the lines for the stomach. And then once you reach here, what we're actually going to do is we're going to make this side be the arm part that we're going to keep. So like I said, the shoulder area is what connects up into the neck and the head area, not this part of the stomach. This is where the armpit of Momo would be. So just take the line that you had drawn for the arm here and bring it up into the head. Then we need these lines down here. And again, just for now, just keep these lines for the hands. I'll show you what to do with the rest of it later on. And you should only really ever draw stuff really heavily once you're super confident that that's exactly what you want. You shouldn't do this right off the bat, otherwise your drawing is going to look very messy when you're trying to erase things out. Now for this part of the knee and shin region, I'm going to go up and I'm going to stop at about here. So that gives us a natural looking overlap for the knee and shin part of Momo's body. We need this bottom part here, and we need the underside of his belly. And of course we need this leg here. And I'm going to stop that about there for the time being. And then of course you can reestablish the tail. Now you notice when I'm doing this part that I'm going to try and not do my sketchy style because I want this to be a little bit cleaner. This is also what I do when I ink these drawings as well. I try and keep things nice and smooth as opposed to super rough and sketchy looking. So now I'm going to erase out the ball joints since I no longer need them. And that should give you a good idea of what exactly we need to keep. And now to start adding a little bit of detail, I'll just put a little line here and here to show us the middle of his body. And then for the last few details, I'm going to come to right here, the armpit area. And I'm going to draw a line that curves upwards. This is to indicate the different patterns and changes in Momo's fur. And for his stomach area, just a little line that curves from armpit to armpit. And then this line is going to curve out that way as opposed to curving this way. And then down on the leg area, from this separation that I had before, I can draw a little separation shape like so. And then on the tail, I can do a few little squiggly lines here, 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 and here. And now for the absolute last part, I'm going to zoom in on the legs and hands and show you what to do with them real quick. So to take care of the rest of the hands, we're going to take this shape that we have here, and I'm going to draw a little bit of a bumpy shape to show the fur on the back of his hand. And then I'm going to make a shape that curves back, up, and then disappears into the back, into this part of the hand. That shows the only part of the fingers that you'll really see. And for the feet, we're going to separate them into 3 little toes. And so to do that, it's a very simple curving shape. So I'm going to draw the first one over here. This one curves downwards like so, leaving just enough space to do the third toe over here. And then what you want to do is, right where that ball joint was before, we're going to have that curve back and form the back part of the foot. Just like so. So you want to have this curve a little bit more this way to make that back part of the foot make more sense. So don't have this toe be quite so big. And then over here, we're going to keep that line that we had before. And then before we reach the edge of the foot here, we're going to draw one curving shape, another curving shape emerging out of it, followed by the third one that's right up at the edge. So again, these toes don't go beyond the edge that we had before. So that makes it easier for us. And then this is going to connect actually with this loop that we had here, just like so. All right, so now that we have that taken care of, I'm going to go ahead and ink this thing up, make it a little bit cleaner, and then come back with some final thoughts. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's Momo all cleaned up. I want to thank you all very much for tuning into this bonus episode of Mr. Schwartz's Art Hour. And next week is going to be yet another Avatar-themed video. And if you're wondering who it is, well, we've had Aang, Katara, and Toph. So who's the last one of those? Thank you for liking and commenting on this video, and I will see you all next time. Have yourselves a wonderful day.